One person is also using technology to push the envelope is John Aguilar, who produced a documentary series called Methods to Greatness, which takes him to as far as Finland as he interviews experts in life sciences and sports training. To talk more about this, we have him on the show tonight, host, entrepreneur, and author John. Welcome to Signal, to One News.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Methods to Greatness. We know you, of course, from the final pitch.
Right.
But this is a new series coming
Yes.
off a book. What inspired you to come up with this idea?
Yeah, the Methods of Greatness concept really started from the pandemic. It was a podcast when all of us were stuck in our homes. And that time, the world's biggest publishing company, Penguin Random House, reached out to me and said, would you like to pitch a concept for a book to us? And so I said, I have this podcast. I'd like to pitch it for it to be a book. And when we released the book last year, we also released the docuseries Methods to Greatness, which is the offshoot. It's the evolution of the Methods to Greatness concept of me interviewing, learning from all of these great people.
Is it the same? Like whatever you have in the book, medyo may video version ka, or is
No,
it totally
it's totally different. Yeah, it's totally different. That was more like a one-on-one interview. This is more experiential. It's like me going out and meeting all of these
So it's kind of like
people.
show and tell. You try the methods.
Right.
How do you feel? Do you feel that much greater after that?
It's hard because I had to do a lot of things in the series. For example, you mentioned Finland. That was the first episode. I actually went on a cold dip in 0 degrees water, just in the middle of the Baltic
to
Sea.
lengthen your life?
Hope so. I hope so. But
Something to do with your central nervous system
Yes.
and the dopamine and controlling stress,
Right.
right? And the fight or flight. How did that work out for you?
it was difficult at first, but because I had the guidance of an expert. He was a breathing and cold exposure expert,
Correct.
Lee, who is actually an Australian, who's based there in Helsinki. So because I had an expert guiding me, the first time I did it for another episode in the series in Switzerland, was the first time I did it. I only lasted 30 seconds back then, but because I had an expert guiding me through the process, I lasted more than 3 minutes.
Doon sa lamig.
Yes.
Malamig na ano.
Yes.
I have done it. I also lasted 4 minutes until I
wow.
voluntarily.
Oh,
yeah.
we're looking at your
We're looking
videos
at
right
the
now.
video.
Wait,
I don't understand
sorry,
it.
hold on.
It is a cold.
What's
Okay,
the
let's
science?
focus on how does a cold plunge.
The greatness here pertains to extending your lifespan?
It is
Or
focused
it's
a lot.
physical?
Right.
Or
it's,
wellness?
It's focused, so all of the above.
Okay.
Greatness can be defined and can be explored in a variety of ways. In particular, for the first season, I really focused on wellness, health and wellness, and longevity. That's why I was able to learn from all of these experts, not just in Finland and Switzerland, but also here locally. I was able to work with a couple of biohacking experts,
Saan
doctors.
dito sa Pilipinas?
Iba-iba.
Meron diyang biohacking sa tapat.
Yes,
nitong, TV
you don't have
fancy.
to look far because we actually worked with MaxiCare. And I really began just finding out what my baselines were, the basics, like cholesterol level, doing the blood work. And from there, accessing different resources that I could find to be able to help me improve on my health. So it was really about getting the data first. And they were very helpful.
So you said it's physical and also what? Mental,
and mental as well.
psychological, spiritual.
All of the above,
Okay.
because it really is a holistic approach that we took for the series.
So I'm assuming reading the bio and these questions that our producers have prepared, it looks like it's a lot of these new, kumbaga, I don't want to say the word fad, but some could be seen as a fad. It needs to be there for a while for it to be a trend, right? So which fads did you try out, and can you tell us, just so we can envision ano ba talaga yung pinagdaanan mo? Let's start with the cold plunge. Let's start with what other activities you feel that you did that actually made an impact, a real impact in your life and your
Okay.
greatness.
All right. So I'm 46, and I'm a returning athlete. I was, like you, I represented Ateneo in a different sport, in track and field. And a lot of the things that I was doing as an athlete back then, I discovered that are still universal truths. Like, for example, the effects of creatine on a power athlete, and supplementation in terms of protein, So that was something that I was doing way before that I discovered now there's more research backing it. But there are also a few things like, I mean, some things you might consider a fad. Like, for example, hyperbaric chambers, right? Which I think, depending on how you look at these things, they could be something that maybe is more like a placebo or not, because there is hard science backing these protocols. But I think at the end of the day, it's the experimentation and trying to see, okay, does this work? And in the long term, how do they affect my performance, my psychological well-being when I am preparing, competing?
Hindi ba mahal naman yung method to greatness? I mean, listening to you.
Great day
It
Okay.
sounds
price tag.
expensive.
Okay.
Where do I start?
Okay, so it can be expensive depending on how you look at it. Okay, because there are a lot of things that you can do on a daily basis to biohack your health. Like, for example, when you wake up, first thing maybe that you could do is hydrate, because we're all dehydrated, right, when we sleep. First thing maybe you could do is put a little bit of lemon and a little bit of salt in that glass of water that you drink first thing in the morning. Get some light exposure through the sun. So, a lot of these things that sometimes we take for granted, or we don't have or give ourselves access to because we're so busy, or we don't naturally do it on a daily basis. Just remembering and, doing these things that we should be doing, like getting out and, interacting also with other people. I learned so many things, but,
What's
it's
your
really a
favorite?
journey.
What's your
Yeah,
favorite?
your
hack?
favorite. I'm really curious.
Okay, the thing that really struck me, we were talking about Finland. Apart from the sauna and the cold exposure, it was really the experience that I had in this forest. It's called, it's in the middle of Nuxio Park. It's a national park. And there I met Mickey, who was a yogi, who really introduced me to the concept.
Forest bathing?
A little bit of that, forest bathing, but just in this brilliant, magical forest almost, like what you see in the movies. But what I felt there was a sense of gratitude that, here I was in the middle of nowhere. It was cold, I was in a foreign country, but I felt the warmth of the people there who welcomed me and showed me that, I told them, you have such a beautiful home here. And, it's not ideal sometimes where we are, like, like here in Manila, you would see pollution. But, she told me you don't have to be jealous of what we have, because wherever you are, you can find that belonging, that sense of gratitude, regardless whether you have pollution or not. It's really being content with life and
That
your
sounds a lot
current
like perspective,
circumstance.
though.
It is. It
It
is.
is. And
But out of the procedures that you've tried,
Procedures, almost like
it sounds like plastic surgery.
the protocols.
hacks.
The protocols.
What would you call
yes.
them?
The
Modality.
the modalities, the protocols. yeah.
Treatment.
Buzzword treatment.
Out of all of that you've tried and you've experimented a lot, which one would you keep doing? That's I guess that's the most telling. Isn't
Okay,
it? Like,
not
which
not
would you?
right. Nothing to do with machines. Right? It's more the natural things that you can do on a daily basis, like what I just mentioned.
The water.
The water, all these things. But apart from that, the things that I learned from people, I competed in the Asian Masters Championships last year, and that exposure allowed me to be able to interview and learn from 70, 80-year-old athletes who are competing.
Was that an athletics event?
Yes, yes. The Asian Masters Championships was hosted here in the Philippines. So I was privileged to be able to carry the country's flag in that competition. But I learned so much from, these almost centennial. There was a 90-plus-year-old lady who, although she was kind of walking, doing the 100-meter dash, I got to interview her prior to her race, and just the support that her family showed her, being there for her, just made me realize that things that are good for us sometimes do not come from machines. They really come from a support system, like a loving family. And so I think that, among other things, I really learned in terms of how we can live longer. It's not so much the things that we consume, vitamins, not that. It's really
So
having
less synthetic, more natural.
What should we not do?
ooh.
Overthink. Fun, sleep late, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a very
Stuff like
good,
that.
very good point. Sleep is very important. It's critically important to peak performance. A lot of us take it for granted. I think because of the culture now that sometimes we stay late for Netflix or whatnot. I think it's making the right decisions on a daily basis. Maybe lessening or totally eradicating, let's say, for example, alcohol from your system. It's not.
Hindi ba nakakahaba ng buhay yan?
Well,
What literature have you been reading?
Hindi pa wala na stress, di ba?
Hindi ko alam, di ako umiin.
Okay, you are on the 4th episode this
Yes.
weekend, correct?
Yes,
Okay, so
yes.
apart from Finland, what do we look forward to
yeah, there's a Switzerland trip in store as well for the viewers.
this weekend?
That's going to be, I believe, on the 6th episode. There's also the competition that I joined with these
Asian
master
Masters.
athletes from around Asia. And this weekend is actually, the concept is show business or the business of the show. So I take the viewers on the process of putting together methods to greatness in terms of creating an ecosystem and a community that eventually will allow us to be able to reach more people through the show.
Oh, John, since we're already talking about the show, can you tell us, we understand this is an 8-episode first season that's
Yes.
airing here on One News. When can people catch your show?
It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. and every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. Here on One News. So, yeah.
And since the first 4 episodes have already aired, can you tell us a bit about the first, the episode 2, 3, and 4? We already know you went to
Yeah,
Finland for the first
right.
one. So just briefly, where did you go and what happens in episode 2, 3, and 4?
Yeah. Episodes 2 and 3 were all about second chances. I mentioned that I'm a returning athlete, so it was my second chance. But we also explored the second chances of people who, for example, had a really serious case of disease or cancer. So Bobby Makasait, who is the chairman of MaxiCare, I learned from him how he was able to transition to a plant-based diet because of his cancer. And apart from that, I also was able to learn from just going through the process of getting all of my baselines, learning from the doctors. And, even if I'm an athlete, I have very high cholesterol, right? So
But that's a lot of that is genetic, yeah?
yes, exactly. And sometimes you can't control it.
Yep.
So no matter what food you eat, sometimes you're just naturally predisposed to having high cholesterol. So it's the acceptance and also finding out what is the best next step for you to do to be able to take care of your health. So a lot of these questions I was able to grapple with, and hopefully, in the coming episodes or seasons, these questions that not only I have, but other people who will have through the series, because just to take you to the future, the first season was about me trying all of these things, being a guinea pig of sorts, but for the next season, we want to be able to involve other people who will take their own methods to greatness journeys.
Nice.
Wow.
Something to
so
look forward to.
exciting. I am so into all of these topics,
Okay.
by the way.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Big Story
Thank you so
tonight.
much.
Methods to Greatness host John Aguilar.